In the early 15th century, Europe stands on a precipice, fractured not by war, but by a divided faith. Two rival popes claim the papacy, tearing Christendom apart. Each excommunicates the other, supported by factions across the continent. However, this turmoil is set to intensify. Amidst this chaos, a cunning banker from Florence, Giovanni de Medici, identifies opportunity within the crisis. The Medici start as simple money changers, but under Giovanni's leadership, they rise to prominence, transforming their bank into both a financial and political power. He understands that this upheaval presents a pathway to influence, and that power can yield true wealth, exceeding mere monetary gains. Giovanni realizes if the Medici can facilitate the election of a new pope acting as the sole intermediary with God, it will elevate their status immensely. The challenge is selecting the right candidate to dethrone the existing popes. Giovanni identifies Baldassare Quosa, a man driven by ambition and a desire for dominance, as his chosen candidate. Quosa, born in late 14th century Naples, to a minor noble lineage, initially thrives amidst the Mediterranean's lawlessness, even resorting to piracy for survival. In ungoverned waters, he develops the wits and audacity necessary for his future endeavors. Eventually, he leaves piracy behind to study canon law at the University of Bologna, rising to the rank of cardinal by 1402. However, a crisis looms. Christendom is fractured with Pope Gregory XII in Rome and Pope Benedict XIII in Avignon, both entrenched in their positions. Baldassare sees chaos as his opportunity. Yet ambition alone isn't sufficient. He requires funding. Thus, Baldassare allies with Giovanni de Medici, whose aspirations mirror his own. Giovanni, seeing potential amidst risk, realizes aiding Quosa's ascension to the papacy will afford the Medici Bank unparalleled access to the Vatican's coffers. With Medici finances bolstering his campaign, Quosa secures loyalty from influential cardinals, ensuring vital votes. Behind the scenes, bribes are exchanged and promises whispered, as the Church's political machinery aligns in his favor. In 1410, the conclave meets and Baldassare Quosa emerges victorious as Pope John XXIII, becoming the third pope in an already splintered Christendom. However, his election does not unite the Church. Rather, it exacerbates the schism, plunging it further into crisis. Yet for the Medici, this marks a significant victory. Giovanni secures control over the Vatican's financial accounts, tying the Medici name to the very core of Christendom. The three-pope crisis will eventually resolve, but the Medici's hold on the Vatican endures, establishing an unbreakable link to its finances and securing their influence for generations. This was monumental. A Florentine banker, largely unknown beyond his city, financed the rise of a pope. Overnight, the Medici transitioned from obscure bankers to influential power brokers, fundamentally altering Florence and paving the way for the Renaissance to unfold. By the late 1420s, Giovanni de Medici's declining health signifies the close of an impactful era. For years, he has been preparing his son Cosimo to inherit the family legacy. Cosimo de Medici, a man of quiet determination, is already recognized for his keen intellect. He is well-educated, immersed in humanist thought, and has begun to forge alliances with Florence's artistic and intellectual elite. In 1428, upon Giovanni's death, Cosimo emerges from his father's shadow. He assumes control of the Medici Bank, aspiring for greater power, influence, and a legacy that extends beyond Florence's financial realm. Little does he realize that a coup among Florence's elite is in the making, threatening everything he envisions for the Medici Empire. It's a political battle that could either fortify his authority or dismantle his family's accomplishments. By 1433, Florence finds itself in a precarious position. The rise of the Medici banking house poses significant concern for other city-state elites. The ruling Albizzi family, led by the formidable Rinaldo de Albizzi, perceives Cosimo as a danger impacting their control over the Republic. When the Medici first began gaining influence in Florence, they were not the sole powerful family with aspirations. The Albizzi were one of the city's oldest, holding substantial political power. During a time of institutional instability, Rinaldo takes bold action, manipulating elections to ensure loyalty among council members. With the city under his sway, he accuses Cosimo of treason, alleging a conspiracy to undermine the Republic. Naive to the full extent of the plot, Cosimo is summoned to the Palazzo della Signoria, allegedly for discussions regarding civic issues. Upon arrival, he faces an ambush, arrested on sight and taken to the Alberghetto, a cramped cell high above the Signoria. Ronaldo contemplates execution, yet recognizes the substantial risks tied to such a decision. Instead, the council opts for exile, a decision Ronaldo reluctantly accepts, believing Cosimo's absence will lead to the demise of the Medici's power. For the Medicis, this exile is just a temporary setback, strategic withdrawal rather than a defeat. In exile, Cosimo carefully reconstructs his power base, not through military might, but by forging alliances and amassing wealth. Under Ronaldo's leadership, Florence starts to falter, his rule driven by fear and exclusion only, amplifying discontent, affecting not only the elite, but the populace at large. Ronaldo's missteps drain Florence's treasury as he engages in costly wars that weaken the city. Frustration mounts among merchants with his mismanagement of the economy. Meanwhile, from afar, Cosimo's influence increases and pressure mounts on Florence to reconsider its decisions. Ronaldo fails to secure essential alliances, isolating Florence and driving nobles back into Cosimo's fold, setting the stage for his return. By 1434, the Medici faction regains strength. As Ronaldo's coup collapses, Florence's leadership invites Cosimo back. He returns triumphantly to a bustling city, where he wastes no time consolidating power, reshaping governance to maintain the veneer of Florence's republican traditions. Upon his arrival in 1434, Cosimo refrains from taking any official title, yet he orchestrates events from behind the scenes. With his authority secure, he begins transforming Florence into a vibrant center of art, intellect, and civic pride. For Cosimo, his aspirations exceed mere political influence. He seeks to leave an enduring legacy. He starts commissioning incredible artists such as Donatello, Fra Angelico, and Michelangelo, whose talents will define Florence's Renaissance era. By the 1440s, Cosimo funds one of the most iconic symbols of this innovation, Donatello's bronze sculpture of David, but his ambitions do not end there. He commissions Michelangelo to design the understated yet grand Palazzo Medici. Through his patronage of art and architecture, Cosimo fosters a cultural revolution in Florence. By the time of his death in 1464, Florence is transformed no longer just a hub of commerce. It stands as the cultural and intellectual heart of Europe. Cosimo's legacy as the Renaissance's father is firmly established. 8. After Cosimo's death, in 1464, his son Piero de' Medici ascends as leader. Unlike his father, Piero contends with chronic illness, earning the unflattering nickname Piero the Gaudy. In 1469, at just 53 years old, Piero succumbs to his ailments, leaving the Medici dynasty at a crossroads as his sons, Lorenzo and Giuliano, are still quite young, with Lorenzo being just 20. As the family gathers for Piero's funeral at San Lorenzo, the weight of succession falls on Lorenzo's shoulders. Determined to uphold the Medici legacy, Lorenzo steps into the role of Florence's leader amidst an unprecedented crisis, conspiracy threatening their power and lives. Lorenzo's youth and inexperience become a vulnerability his enemies seek to exploit. The Pazzi family, a powerful banking dynasty, envious of the Medici's influence, leads the charge alongside Archbishop Francesco Salviati of Pisa. Their plot receives backing from Pope Sixtus IV, resents Lorenzo for refusing to fund the papacy's ambitions. On April 26, 1478, during High Mass at the Cathedral of Santa Maria del Fiore, the conspirators strike. As the ceremony unfolds, two attackers target Giuliano de' Medici, stabbing him repeatedly until he collapses and dies. Simultaneously, Lorenzo confronts his own attackers, while they lunge for him. Lorenzo's quick thinking and loyal supporters help him escape with only a minor injury. Chaos erupts in Florence as news of the attack spreads. The conspirators intended to seize power, but their scheme disintegrates as Lorenzo's allies rally the city. Archbishop Salviati and Francesco de' Pazzi attempt to storm the Palazzo della Signoria, but are captured and swiftly executed, hanged in a public display from the palace's windows. Through this crisis, Lorenzo emerges not as a weakened ruler, but as a symbol of Florentine resilience. The populace rallies around him as their republic's savior. He swiftly strengthens his grip on power while maintaining the guise of Florence's cherished republican principles. Lorenzo establishes a council of 70 loyalists, effectively sidelining traditional governing bodies and ensuring Medici influence over key decisions. Florence comes under the control of the oligarchs. A political genius, Lorenzo utilizes tax policies to reward allies, undermine rivals, and fund public projects that win the approval of the common folk. With Medici power solidified, Lorenzo focuses on cultivating Florence's cultural identity. He discovers a young talent, Michelangelo Buonarroti, and recognizes the potential within him, providing resources and education. Lorenzo helps mold Michelangelo into an artist whose creations embody the divine beauty sought during the Renaissance. Simultaneously, under Lorenzo's mentorship, Leonardo da Vinci flourishes in creativity. Inspired by Lorenzo, Leonardo explores ideas of flying machines, human anatomy, and produces unparalleled artwork. Lorenzo's achievements are monumental. He not only fortifies Medici power, but transforms Florence into the Renaissance's heart. Upon his death in 1492, Lorenzo passes the leadership responsibility to his son Piero, yet Florence finds itself on unstable ground as a crisis looms. Piero's children face a tumultuous upheaval, unprepared to counter threats that will soon arise. A new type of adversary threatens to achieve what the Pazzi banking house could not, to obliterate the Medici bloodline. In 1492, Lorenzo de' Medici's death leaves Florence weak and vulnerable. His son Piero de' Medici ascends to leadership, but he is ill-equipped for the role. Young, inexperienced, and overwhelmed by rival factions, Piero faces formidable challenges. In September 1494, King Charles VIII of France marches south with a powerful army. Armed with advanced artillery and seasoned mercenaries, faced with this foreign threat, Piero struggles to decide whether to resist or submit. His eventual indecision proves disastrous. Initially offering neutrality, he succumbs to pressure, surrendering Pisa and critical territories without a fight. Piero's capitulation ignites outrage among the Florentine populace. As resentment swells, Piero returns to a city on the brink of rebellion, even losing the support of his allies. With their faith in his leadership shattered, the stage is set for a popular preacher to rise, igniting a movement aimed at toppling the Medici rule. His name is Girolamo Savonarola. Savonarola, a Dominican friar, becomes a moral crusader for the city, igniting both hope and fear among a populace disillusioned by corruption and excess. Known for his intense fervor, Savonarola is drawn to the church early in his life, abandoning medicine to join the Dominican order. Though his early sermons struggled to gain traction, he eventually believes he experiences divine revelations. Savonarola's apocalyptic visions paint vivid scenarios, with Florence engulfed in sin and God's judgment looming. Much like contemporary doomsday preachers, he capitalizes on the population's fear and desperation. He criticizes Renaissance art's vanity, the bankers' greed, and the ruling class's decadence, specifically targeting the Medici. Savonarola's influence escalates unchecked as he positions himself as a voice of divine retribution. When King Charles VIII marches into Italy in 1494, Savonarola declares him God's instrument, sent to admonish Florence for its moral failures. His sermons resonate widely, becoming calls for the people to repent and adopt a simpler, more virtuous lifestyle. As Piero capitulates to the French, surrendering Florence's dignity, the population turns against him. With his rising influence, Savonarola orchestrates a theocratic regime wherein Florence is governed by strict moral codes. However, Savonarola's rule proves short-lived. The Vatican cannot permit unchecked religious power. On May 23, 1498, Savonarola is executed in Florence's Piazza della Signoria. He is hanged and burned, his ashes scattered in the Arno River to eliminate veneration. For the Medici, Florence remains lost, needing to regain influence through a new avenue. For the first time, a Medici will ascend to the highest office in the church, restoring the family's prestige and paving a path back to Florence. While Piero's actions led to the Medici's decline, hope arises through his younger brother, Giovanni de' Medici. As a child, Giovanni was closely involved with the grandeur of the Medici court. Chosen by Lorenzo the Magnificent to ensure the family's legacy intertwines with the religious domain. At merely 13 years old, he is appointed a cardinal, a strategic move orchestrated by Lorenzo to cement Medici power within the Vatican. This foresight reflects extraordinary ambition. Lorenzo's vision for the Medici lineage reached far into the future. In 1513, at 37, after years of careful diplomacy, Giovanni seizes his opportunity. Following the passing of Pope Julius II, Giovanni recognizes this moment as his chance to become the religious world's most influential figure. Despite losing ground in Florence, his banking empire and control over Vatican finances remain robust. Seizing this opening, Giovanni secures loyalty. His reputation as a reliable, moderate choice positions him as the undeniable candidate for papacy. Ultimately, he doesn't merely win the papacy, he effectively purchases it.